Okay, welcome everybody to another edition of the Parsha. So we're in Parshas Mitketz. It's also Hanukkah, first night of Hanukkah. So we should talk a little bit about Hanukkah. I think that's a good idea. Let me tell you a little bit about. Let me give you Rav Noch. So used to give a great insight into Hanukkah. So, so the Greeks they came and they said, "Bow down to our God." Bow down to the pig. That was their thing, right? Give up your religion, and they weren't against the people. It was against the Torah. There's different types. There's two types of anti-Semites. There's the ones who hate the people. That's Hitler type, and then there's the Greek type, which is they don't hate the people. They hate the religion, the philosophy. So they come to Israel and they say bow down or we'll kill you. So the reaction of the Jewish people, so you kill us. Some obviously didn't. So they followed along, but the rabbis, from the religious people, they said, "So you kill us. Why didn't you fight?" Because because despite what Zelensky would have you believe, that there's some things that you just can't fight. Like it's silly. Like you're not going to fight. Um, if the whole town is surrounded, um, Masada gives off a very bad message. If the whole town's surrounded, you don't. There's no point in fighting. The Warsaw Ghetto, that is another one. You don't serve any purpose if you take three of them down with you. If you can live, if you can succeed, if you can win the fight, then go and fight. But if you can't win, if it's pointless, the Greeks in their day were like the Americans, the Russians, well, the Russians in the good old days of the Russians, not the Russians at the moment, but the good old days, the Russians, the Chinese, maybe a few others rolled into one. They were the superpower. You couldn't beat the Greeks. They conquered the whole world. It was pointless. So, what do you do when they say bow down or we'll kill you? Okay, so you kill me. That's my job. That's what I have to do is to just go down knowing that the Almighty runs the world and there's nothing more I can do. Right? So they come to the little town of Modin where the Kohen Gadol was residing. And they say, bow down or we'll kill you. So they said, okay, so you kill us. And they were lining up to be killed. And one Jew, he steps forward and he says, I'm not willing to die. I'll bow down. So Matisyahu, the Kohen Gadol, he steps forward. He has a knife or a dagger hidden under his coat. And he steps forward and he starts the revolution. They killed all the Greeks, and that's the beginning of the revolution. Right? They take the temple, they find the menorah. Now, the people often mistake that the menorah was the beginning of the war, not the end of the war. That signified the beginning. When the Greeks found out what they did, they said reinforcements. It was a very bloody, long battle that was we paid an awful price for it. The Greeks were not going to let this go by, and they were brutal. So, but that started the revolution, which snowballed into. So when the menorah was lit, so we'll get to the menorah in a minute. Um, so so Rav Nach asked the question, why do you fight now? So he says sometimes you fight because you can win. Sometimes you don't fight because you can't win. And sometimes you have to fight because you can't afford to lose.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Hanukkah is all about. That when that Jew stepped forward and said, I'll bow down, now we can't lose. That we can't let this happen. There's certain things in life that you'll fight because you can't let it happen. You have to do something because We can't let this go on, right? And that's the beginning. Hanukkah, the fascinating aspect of Hanukkah is the fact that the menorah, the light, stayed lit for 8 days is no big deal. I mean, in our history, we've had far bigger miracles occur. Some of them made it into the holidays, some of them made into our history books, and some of them were just forgotten or never really mentioned. But you know, if you like, tonight we lit the first night, the first candle. If tomorrow you come back and it's still lit, don't bother calling the television station, CNN. If on the third night the first two are still lit, so you only have to light one candle, right? Also, if all 8 nights, each one stayed lit, so the first night was still, by the 8th night, it's still lit, right? They're not going to make a holiday. They already got a holiday on this day. They're not going to make another holiday because you're a menorah. You'll tell the rabbi, you call up your local rabbi, maybe the local news will pick it up, right? But it's not going to be. They're not going to turn your home into a temple or anything like that, right? There's not going to be a new holiday. So why do they make a holiday? Because now the holiday is around the menorah being lit. The real miracle was beating the Greeks. That was the big deal. That was very significant, right? But we've also had many times we've beaten our enemies. We just had one. They're not going to make a holiday around it, right? We just wiped out the leadership of Hezbollah, the leadership of Hamas, right? We're not going to make a holiday out of such things, right? We've had if we had a holiday, every time one of our enemies dropped dead, you never go to work, right? So
I'm okay with that.
stay with them, right? Right? So we don't make a holiday out of that. So you see that the holiday is because the Almighty was telling us this changed Jewish history. This is you achieved something here. You understood something about life, about how to live in the exile, that you need to carry on through the rest of your history. You know, I think we might have talked about it a little bit. Why do they, all around the world, anti-Semites are popping up in unison? It's like the cicadas, where I think, was it 18 years they come up? Something like that. There's different cicadas, different cycles. But if you're one of the 18-year cycle cicadas, so one of you might be in Edison and another one might be in Washington, right? I don't know what it is, 300 miles away. How do they communicate underground with each other? Oh, this is the year, guys, right? I mean, they're basically in the ground dead. Like, what they call hibernating, but for all intents and purposes, they're dead, right? They don't have a smartphone that's got, alarm, wake me up in 18 years. But we don't even have batteries that would last that long. Right? So how do they do it? Because there's something that's triggered when each one of them, there's some sort of cycle, some sort of going on. Somehow they all know this is the year to come out, right? The same thing, right? All around the world, the anti-Semites come out, right? In some parts of the world, they hate us because we killed Palestinians who were innocent. The other one is, no, the Palestinians, they did it. Another one, they've all got different messages that often contradict each other. But one thing they all agree on is that they hate the Jews. The Jews, no matter where you are, it's not Israelis, it's Jews, right? It's not like the Catholics, the Italians do something, we hate all Catholics, right? Or we hate all Italians, or we hate all, Americans anywhere. I haven't lived in America in 5 generations, doesn't matter, right? When it comes to Jews, right, Israel, it's all Jews. We're all in the same, it's all in the same, we hate all Jews. Why don't you just hate the Palestinians? I mean, the people who were massacred on October the 7th, they were the most pro-Palestinian Israelis you can get. So why do you hate them? Because they hate all Jews. What is it about a Jew that you hate? Right? You understand? See, this is the message of Hanukkah. This is why they hate us. Because it's Hanukkah. So you see, you're standing next to a guy, non-Jew, an anti-Semite, and you say to him, why are you a Muslim? Right? So he says to you, you know why I'm a Muslim? Because Muhammad, this is not very PC, by the way, so just be careful who you share it with, right? But you know me. So why are you a Muslim? So he says, why? Because Muhammad came into my village, and we're all Zoroastrians. And he said, really, you're Zoroastrian? He says, I'll give you a choice, because you've got to make a choice in life. You can be a Zoroastrian, or you can be living Muslim. Which one would you rather be? He says, really? That's the choice? I think it sounds very meaningful. It sounds attractive to be a Muslim, right? And that's why he's a Muslim. How come everyone in the Middle East, practically speaking, are Muslims, right? Because Muhammad went into each village and said the same thing. You want to be a Muslim or you want to be dead? Right? That's your choice, right? And the rest of the world, they're Christian. Why are they Christian? And they're Muslim. This line separates the Muslims, and this line separates the Christians. And even within the Christians, you got the Catholics, you got the Sunnis, you got each one, right? Because Henry VIII came along in England. He said, you want to be a Protestant or you want to be dead? Which one would you rather be? I'd rather be a Protestant, right? The Catholics did the same thing, right? You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So every one of them gave up, right? They made the same choice to the Jew. The Jew says, I'm not giving up. Now, we died. A lot of us died from it. But an awful lot of us said, we're not giving up. So they know that when they're looking at a Jew, here's a guy who didn't give up. See, it's like the guy in the gym. So he wants to believe that it's not possible to keep running. When the first guy, he does it, he keeps going at the gym. Everyone hates him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because they want a nice excuse. You can't keep going anymore. You have to give up. So a Jew, when you're standing up there, he says, my great-great-great-great-grandfather gave up, and yours didn't. I'm descended from people who gave up. So they don't really believe it. They just believe that they have to do it because they don't want to be dead. Right? And so all around and they know intuitively, they may not be able to articulate it, but they know intuitively that we didn't give up. If you're a Jew, it's because you didn't give up. Right? That's a very powerful message. That's a very important concept. And that's why they hate us all around the world, universally. Because they know that we're descended from people that just don't give up. We keep fighting, right? And the problem, it is a very interesting thing that during the Second World War, I remember growing up in England, and you go see the movie, there's a great movie, The Darkest Hour, about the Second World War, the Winston Churchill in the Second World War. I mean, everyone in England, not everyone, but pretty much everyone believed it was a hopeless war. I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago, that Winston Churchill wrote that in the one night he slept the sleep of the saved. Right? He had the best sleep he ever had. The sleep of the saved. When was that? In the middle of the war. What day? Pearl Harbor. When
Woke up a sleeping giant.
He didn't publicize that because Roosevelt wouldn't have liked it very much. But he knew that means that up until that point, it was not a given that England would win. Now, in hindsight, the truth of the matter is the Germans didn't really have a chance at conquering England. Not the rest. The rest of the Europe was clearly a miracle. Clearly a miracle. How with what they had and how they ran through the whole of Europe to France was with what they had, the military that they had. In hindsight, it's just we didn't have the intelligence that we needed to know what was going on. But one of the, just to give you a slight slice of this, so the Battle of Britain was fought in the air. And that was the first battle, the first war where an air force was so instrumental, so important, strategically important. So what the British felt that they were fighting an overwhelming force, but they can't, which in certain ways is an advantage because you feel you've got to put in your best because you're dealing with such a domineering foe. But it wasn't the case at all. The technique that the Germans used in their air force was they would throw everything at the problem. This is how they ran the war, right? How the British ran the war, specifically the air force, is they would divide it into threes. So a third of the platoon was stationed, a third was in preparation, and a third was had a break. They had leave. Right, so they only have a third. So each one was refreshed, and they weren't drained. Right, fine. But each one thought the other one was copying them, was doing the same thing they were doing. And that's how people think. Right? They think that everyone does the same as them. So the Germans thought the British were throwing everything they had at them. So that's why they thought we should be able to win this. Then they couldn't because it was only a third. So they might get somewhere with a third, but the next day they got another third. So the Germans thought they were fighting against a very small British force, so they should be able to win. The British thought they were fighting an overwhelming force because they thought they were fighting a third. If this is a third, oh my goodness. So they felt a little defeated. You understand? Right? And how do we get onto that? We digressed a lot. Oh, so the British, they were just like, this is we can't win this one. Right? They were very defeatist. And that's why the greatness of Winston Churchill was, he was necessary at the time because he rallied the troops. Right? He refused during the bombing of England, the bombing of London, the Blitz of London. There were very few photographs of it. He made it illegal to photograph anything that was bombed because he didn't want to destroy the morale of the people.
Smart.
Photographs of the bombing of London. It's very interesting. Even today, there are very few. There are few, but very few. Right? You think there'd be like lots, but there wasn't. He wouldn't allow anyone to photograph it. He was very smart. So how do we get onto that in Hanukkah? I don't know. Here we go.
The battle of people who give up versus those who don't give up.
Yeah.
Despite the overwhelming odds.
So it's very when I was growing up, it was a bone of contention between us and the French. Because the French, and let alone the Belgians and the Polish and everybody else who gave up. Right? And it was a bone of like pride in England that the Germans won the world now, even though we won the war. It's a constant theme. Didn't we win the war? How come there's cars made in Germany? I thought we won the war. It annoys the English no end that the Germans own Rolls Royce.
What?
When did that happen?
How did that happen? You know, the Mini Cooper, right, with the British thing on it and everything, right? It's owned by a Volkswagen, I think. Oh, no, it's not BMW. BMW owns it.
So
Exactly.
is there as much hatred now, given that Israel is winning,
Is there much hatred now?
as there was in the beginning?
No, no, it's died off because that's how I got onto it, right? So that everyone thinks the other side thinks like them, right? You follow? So the reason October 7th is because the Arabs think that we think like them, and the thing of October 7th, and they throw these stupid missiles up, is they think, well, if it was happening to us, we would give up. That's why they keep doing these stupid things, because they think that we think like them. And therefore, if we did, we would have given up. We go, this is ridiculous. We've been here 70 years and they don't stop killing us. Time to give up. And unfortunately, a lot of Israelis did give up. And they moved to America or Europe or wherever. Right?
I still don't get that. I'm sorry, because this is not like the first time. This is like we keep fighting them.
That's what's shocking to them. They thought we should give up. That's why they hate us, because you don't give up.
Oh, so we don't follow their value system. Hello, we're different.
They don't. That's the message, the Kiddush Hashem, that the Israelis give over by keep fighting, and that's why anti-Semitism is dying down, because they realize we're not giving up.
We really can't. I mean, the way that we're brought up, it's like, remember we used to be slaves in Egypt, and then Hashem did them in and we left with great riches. Like, we can't give up. It's not within our DNA.
That's exactly the point. But they don't get that.
You think after all these thousands of years and so many dead civilizations, like someone would finally understand?
A lot of them do. Right? It's hard to know the size of the anti-Semitic. The ones who are, the number of actual people who are protesting and even tacitly agreeing is very, very small. But, in 8 billion people, you don't need a very high percentage. But it's a very small number of people. And where they're protesting is in very safe places. It doesn't take a hero to march on the streets of London. Right? Oh, well, you're a big shot. Complain to the English about the Israelis. I go, excuse me? What are they going to do about it? So it's a very, very, but they make a lot of noise. They make enough noise for the Jew. I mean, it's completely counterproductive to their purpose. They make enough. It's very interesting. I'll tell you a very interesting Gemara I just learned. Fascinating Gemara. We're completely off the topic, but the Gemara says like this: 400 years. Like we said in the past, we talked about this last week. The world is divided into four parts. 2,000 years, and the parshas are divided into 4 parts too, right? The first 2, the second 2, the third 2, and the last 7th, right? So the first 2 are tohu, are chaos. The first 2,000 years of the history of the world are chaos. The second 2,000 years are Torah, and the third 2,000 years is the Yomos Mashiach, the days of the Mashiach, the Messiah. And the last day, the last 1,000 is Shabbat. So the third period, which is what we're in now, the days of the Mashiach, started approximately a little bit after the Korban Beis Hamikdash, right? So the Gemara is in the Gemara Avodah Zarah 9b. So Daf Tes Amud Beis. So the Gemara over there says that 400 years after the Churban, after the destruction of the temple, something should have happened that brought the Mashiach. The Gemara doesn't explain what. but nevertheless 400 years, which is in the period of the 2,000 years of the days of the Messiah. So it says there that if someone comes to you and says, I'll sell you this piece of land that is worth 1,000 dinar, is worth $1,000 for $1, don't do it. So Rashi says, why don't do it? Because you're wasting $1. It's like throwing it away. Do you follow?
Why? Because Mashiach's coming?
Mashiach's coming. In other words, the Mashiach's coming, then all the Jews are going to move to Israel, right? And this won't be worth anything. You understand? So then why are you going to buy something? Right? It's sort of like buying what the equivalent. You're moving to Israel and you're buying a toaster. But in Israel, it's the electrical supply is 220, and here it's 110. So you're buying a toaster, but you can't use it. And I remember living in Israel, I blew out a few people's radios because I plugged it in, and oops, forgot the adapter, right? And I grew up in England. England's the same power as Israel, so it didn't matter. Right, but it's also 220 because the English set up the power system in Israel, which I like. That's one of the few things the British did that was good. So anyway, especially if you're English. So anyway, getting back. Where was I talking about? The British went and they 220. Oh, so the Gemara says it. If they come and they say, right, they come and say, I'll sell you this piece of land. It's normally worth $100 million, and I'll sell it to you for $1. Don't buy it because you're wasting $1. You follow? The problem is, like, I'll sell you I don't know. I'll sell you a gold coin. And normally it sells for $1 million, and I'll sell you a diamond. This is a better one. I'll sell you a diamond. Normally it sells for $1 million. I'll sell it for $1. You interested?
No.
Well,
I'm just not into diamonds.
no, I'm not talking about for the fact you want a diamond, but as an investment.
As an investment, probably, but I also believe very strongly the Mashiach is on its way.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, fine. I'll take the diamond for $1.
Why would you take the diamond for $1?
Well, it doesn't. That's not much. $1 is not much for something that supposedly has value.
Right. So if the worst comes to the worst, you lost $1.
Right.
I mean, all investment is really just, I think diamonds are going to go up, and you think diamonds are going to go down, right? It could be they will crack the code on creating cheap diamonds, like they can already do it, right? Do it cheaply, and they'll flood the market with diamonds. And the price of diamonds, when they first discovered diamonds in South Africa, that's exactly what they did. They flooded the market and diamonds became worthless. Right? De Beers came in and said, guys, hello. Right? Let's control the supply of diamonds so they become worth something. That's what they did. Right? The people who own De Beers cannot come to America. They will be arrested. They have an arrest warrant against them because it's a monopoly. Price controls. It's illegal. In America, it's illegal what they're doing, right? So that's what they do. They control the price of the thing. So if someone's selling a $1 million diamond for $1, he might know something. He might know that they're just about to dump all these diamonds on the market, and the price is going to go through the floor, and your diamond isn't going to worth anything. Okay, but maybe it will. You understand? So what's the Gemara saying? The guy's selling the property that's worth $1 million for $1. Don't buy it if it's in the days of the Mashiach. Why? Again, maybe it is the Mashiach came or is coming or is here, and maybe he isn't. In other words, if you bought that property 1,600 years ago, you'd be doing very well now.
If you live that long.
Yeah, you understand? It's like during the Battle of Britain, the prices of property fell through the floor because the Germans might invade. Right? So someone's got a piece of property, it's normally worth £1 million, and he's selling it to for £1,000 because he thinks the Germans are going to invade. Okay, if they invade, right, the property's worth nothing. Okay, so you lost 1,000, but if they don't, you made. So that's all speculation is like that. Why is the Talmud telling you specifically, don't do it?
Is it because if you're in the day or the years of Mashiach, then it's clear that it's going to be land that's going to be returned to the Jews? So why pay for it when it's something you're already owning?
No, it's not talking about land specifically in Israel. It's talking about land all over the world.
Oh, okay. Then I must have misunderstood this whole thing then.
But even if it was land in the land of Israel, which is going to go back, so okay, again, it's another speculation.
So then why are they saying it?
So you see what they're saying is, if land is normally worth 1,000, goes for 1, right? It means that's the sign of what the Mashiach. Land doesn't do that.
Usually goes up in price.
But even if there's a war, it goes down a little, but it doesn't crash like that. That's a sign that the Mashiach's coming. My goodness, this was selling. They're selling off the Empire State Building for $10.50. Wow. You know, when crazy stuff like that happens, it means the Mashiach's coming.
Oh, so things like COVID was like just a reminder that Mashiach's coming because crazy things were happening.
No, so you see, how many people are in the world?
Supposedly 8 billion.
8 billion. You know? So the Mashiach comes, who's going to be going back to Israel?
All the Jews.
As a percentage of the 8 billion, how many is that?
We're like 0.0 something.
So all the
0.02%.
all the Jews go back, property is not going to change that much. It's not
right.
like we got all these apartments opening now.
Right, it's very few people. It's just a few million.
Right. So why will property crash? Because the Jews own all the property.
Do we? I don't think so.
We are very powerful in the property world. They don't own all the property. So when the Jews are selling off all the property because they're rushing to Israel, that has a sign the Mashiach's coming.
Wow.
I'm not sure if that's what the Gemara means, but nevertheless, it's very interesting. I don't know how we digressed off of that.
It's a good thing you sold then, Rabbi. I think we should do the same.
That's true. I sold my house. Right. Okay, let's talk about the Parsha. Now, actually, what I wanted to talk about was the Haftarah. The Haftarah is a very famous Haftarah. It's about Shlomo Melech with the 2 babies. If you know the story about 2 women have babies, and one of the babies dies. So the mother of the dead baby switches the baby, and the mother of the live baby goes into her crib in the morning and sees a dead baby in there. But a mother knows her own baby, right? And knows this isn't her baby. She looks at her next door neighbor and she realizes that's her baby, right? So she grabs the baby, the other woman grabs the baby, and they come into King Solomon's court, right? And we all know the story. He pulls out a sword. He says, I'll cut them have half each, right? Now, if you were on King Solomon's court, if you was King Solomon's court, what, and King Solomon suggests, you're on King Solomon's court, how would you resolve the issue? Right? He's got a based in, right? Some advisors, they're sitting around, he comes back and says, well, guys, I've got a real doozy here.
Why not call a prophet? Wouldn't they know? Why not call a prophet?
Right, but this is a based in. I mean, there's a good point. There's a Gemara, there's many Gemaras like this, that if you find an item on the street and you don't know who it belongs to, what do you do? Right? So one of the 48 ways is to say in the name of the one who said it. Right? So the Gemara goes into all the different opinions of how you deal with lost objects, with things you find, and it quotes various rabbis, but it doesn't quote King Solomon. It doesn't go all the way back. Why not?
But his chacham was from Hashem, like directly. So, like that kind of chachma does not really exist, right?
What do you mean that chachma does not exist?
In other words, he specifically asked Hashem for that special chachma.
Right, but I'm asking about the lost object. And this can be asked about many parts of the Gemara, parts of Jewish law, the Talmud. So you see, why don't they ask this question? Like, why is this? Why is the Talmud arguing with people? The argument is an argument that happened in the days of the Gemara. Why isn't it an argument that's been going on for thousands of years? And it was at the time of King Solomon, what did they do with lost found objects? They didn't have this issue? No, they didn't have this issue because they had Nevi'im.
Oh.
That's what your point is.
Yes.
Right? The Talmud is a discussion of what do you do now that we don't have a Navi. We found a lost object and we don't know who it belongs to. Why don't you know who it belongs to? Because we don't have a Navi. Before, you used to go to the Navi and say, whose is this? Oh, that's Shmuel's down the street, third house on the left. He's been looking for it. Oh, thank you so much. Right? And be careful when you walk in the door because his cat's in there and he always runs away. You know, right? The Navi would tell you this. So the Gemara is a new age in Jewish history. We don't have a Navi. How do we decide, these issues? So that's why they're arguing. This is what the pasuk means. Why, how come this is the first time you've ever wondered what the pasuk means? You didn't have to ask what the pasuk meant. You had a Navi. Right? It's a new age in Jewish history.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you had to have people, tremendous Chachma. The gates of Chachma opened up because we didn't know what to do. You had to understand a pasuk like you never understood it before. You didn't need to know it before. So anyway, getting back, where were we?
So you're talking about the two women.
Yeah. So, right. So the split says it's in a basin. The basin you can't use a Navi. You have to just because it's din. It's not nevuah. So what do you do? The two women. How would you resolve the issue?
Well, so we kind of know the answer. It's hard to answer that question since we already know what happens.
Right. So King Solomon says, I got the answer. I'm going to threaten to cut the baby in half. Right. And that's it. So one bright spark raises his hand and says, excuse me, Mr. Solomon, Mr. King. I hear that's a interesting approach. Right. Because the real mother will say, no, give the baby to the other woman. Right. We know this to be true. In our own history, not very recent history, right? When the families were being marched off to Auschwitz, there were many, many women who gave up their babies to their Polish neighbor. Right? It's a big problem in Israel now because these babies are now old themselves and their parents are dying. And on their deathbed, the parents are telling them the truth. You're not Polish, you're a Jew, right? And they're showing, and they find out they're Jewish, and they don't know what to do. So they go to Israel. I just found out I'm Jewish. What do I do? How do you know you're Jewish? My father told me. What do you mean your father told you? Where's the proof? What do you mean? Where's the proof? My mother died in Auschwitz. She took her ketubah papers with her. What am I supposed to? Right? That's a big problem. What do you do with these kids? Right? So the real mother would say that. But how would you know that the fake mother, would say, yes, cut him in half?
Because her son's already dead. So she has no connection to that child and she doesn't care.
I understand that, but I don't know women very well. But it's my understanding that just because it's not your baby, you don't want it dead. Right? Tell me if I'm wrong. Right?
That's true, but maybe this woman was especially angry.
I understand that, and obviously she was in hindsight. But that's hindsight. How did King Solomon know that? And the only way this works is if you know that the fake mother's going to say, cut the baby in half. She wants a dead baby. How did King Solomon know that? You see, that's the genius of King Solomon. Now, why is that the Haftorah? What has that got to do with the Parsha?
These are huge riddles, Rabbi. Give us a hint here.
Oh, Mary had a little lamb. His face was white as snow. There you go. That was an easy one. Right? So why is this in this week's Parsha? Because Yosef was a smart character. He was a smart guy. Right? All the things that he's going to do in the Parsha about telling the brothers, these spies, all these different things are done with immense and intense chachma. This is he's laying out a path, a trap to put the brothers in a specific spot. What is that? So you see, if he had come out, I think we talked about this last week, that he understood that the Egypt is going into a famine, the whole world is going to a famine, to force the brothers to come down to Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
He understood that was necessary for the brothers to meet Joseph and that Joseph deal with them. If he had just come out and wrote to his father and showed them that he was right, and they had to bow down to him because he's the king, so they would have got the message. But it's not the same as if they learned it themselves, right? Tshuva Gemor, this tshuva is what's called tshuva Gemor, like complete tshuva. And that is when you're in the same situation again, but instead of doing what you did before, you do the opposite, you do the right thing. So he's going to set them up in such a way that Benjamin they rightfully should be sold into slavery, which is exactly how the Parsha ends. But instead of doing so, even though that's really what he should, they're going to band together as brothers. We're entering into, if you read the Parsha sheet I sent out, we're entering into a new period of Jewish history where perfection is not possible. You've got Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. We now have the 12 tribes, and our success is not going to be for any individual being perfect, or being the God, or being the par excellence. It's going to be by working together. As long as we work together, nothing will beat us. And so he's trying to teach the brothers this lesson that you've got to be behind each other. No matter what they do, you don't fight internally. Right? Begin understood this, so that when Rabin, not Rabin, sorry, when Ben Gurion sent Rabin and Sharon, not Sharon, Shamir to go fire on the Altalena, Begin told his troops not to fire back. Don't kill Jews. So he was the old time. He was old school. He understood what it meant to be a Jew and what the success of a Jew was all about. The socialists was destroying the country, have destroyed the country. Don't get it. But anyway, so that's what Joseph was trying to drum in this message. So he puts Benjamin in a position that it makes it look like he's a thief and deserves to be sold in slavery. And nevertheless, the brothers are going to band together to defend him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's tremendous chachma going on. And there's tremendous chachma going on with King Solomon. That is, that he understood that this woman who took a baby only took a baby not because she wants a baby, but because she's acting out of jealousy. If you have $100,000 and you lose it, right, in the stock market, you're going to feel really bad. You walk into Las Vegas, you take $100,000, you plop it on the table, you lose all of it. There you go. Well, that's pretty annoying.
Mm-hmm.
You go. Alternatively, you walk into Las Vegas and you got $100,000, and the guy you're with, he's also got $100,000, and he puts it on the table, and he makes $200,000, right? And if you had done the same thing, you would also made a $200,000. So in effect, you lost $100,000 because you didn't make $100,000. Which one do you feel bad over, or the worst over? Which scenario?
You feel bad because the other fella got 200,000.
You could have made $100,000, but you didn't, or you lost $100,000.
I don't know. I think if I could have made 100 and I didn't. I don't know why. It makes no sense.
You're right.
If you had lost 100, that would be bad.
I'm like you. Exactly. I would feel worse thinking that I could. That is really the healthy way to look at it.
But it doesn't make sense. It would make more sense if you felt bad that you lost 100.
That's how most people think. Exactly. If they had 100, they lost it, they're really annoyed. But if they could have made 100,000 and they didn't, they don't feel so bad.
Right? Yeah, to me, the second one is like, oh, that lost opportunity.
The lost opportunity. That is really, I think that's how you should think. But most people don't think like that. When they lose 100,000, they're really annoyed. They could have made 100,000, doesn't bother them. Right? That's how you should be thinking. There's great opportunities in life you're missing. They don't care about that. They just don't want to lose what they have. Even though technically it's the same exact thing.
Not really. It's the losing 100 is based on fear. The not gaining, the losing of the opportunity is more like looking forward to something great that you could have had and now don't.
Right, but technically you're still missing $100,000.
Okay, fair enough.
Right, it's the same either way, but you don't feel about it the same either way. Right, so most people, it bothers them when they've lost 100. They had $100,000 in their bank, and if they'd done nothing, they would still be there. But because they took and invested it in this, now they have nothing. That eats people away. Right? The people who had money with Bernie Madoff now have nothing. Oh, that eats them away. Right? You understand? So that's what this woman had. She had a baby. Now she doesn't. And this woman has a baby. You know, what's his name? The guy who had the meat packing place and was forced.
Bashkin. Rabashkin.
Rabashkin. So I heard him speak a few months ago. He gave a great talk. He's phenomenal. And he tells this story that he's in prison. He's in a high security prison. Right? Ridiculous, total anti-Semitism. So he's in a high security prison with not exactly the cream of society. And he used to get mail from all over the world. And so mail day would come, right? And the mailman would come in and he would announce, you know, Joe this, Michael that, Davey this, you follow? Right? And get to him, Rabashkin, they'd call out, and he had a whole pile of mail. And the people, the kind of people who are in there, they don't have a lot of friends and family who love them. So they didn't get a lot of mail, right? And he's getting lots of mail. And this is becoming annoying, frustrating to all the other people. You know, he's getting a lot of mail, right? So one day he's by himself, and one of these guys who was not the sharpest tool in the shed comes up to him, and he means business. He's pretty ticked. So he says to him, "Oi, Rabashkin, how come you're getting all my mail?" So Rabashkin looks at him and goes, "What do you mean your mail? Like, what are you talking about?" He didn't understand what he was talking about. So he says, "Yeah, you're getting my mail." And he's getting really annoyed. "I want my mail." And he realized what he means. He thinks that if he wasn't there, all those letters would go to him. It's like, the delivery of donuts, So the first guy took 3, and there's no left for the other guy. If you hadn't taken yours, I would have got 3 donuts. You understand? So he realizes and he's got to think quick about what to answer because the guy means business. So he says to him, he says the whole time he was in prison, no one beat him up in prison. Even though he's a little Jewish guy, no one beat him up. The guards beat him up, but the inmates didn't. The inmates left him alone. So, but anyway, this would seem like a very touchy point. So he is thinking what to do. And he pulls out of a pocket one of the letters. He says to the guy, "Listen, even if you had my mail, you couldn't do anything with it." He says, "What do you mean?" And he gives him the letter, and it's in Yiddish. And this guy's Yiddish is not what it used to be. So he looks at it, turns it upside down. He can't make head or tail of it. And he gives it back and just walks away. So Rabashkin's sitting there thinking to himself, why did God do this to me? God's sending me a message. God's always talking to us. What does he mean? And he realizes, oh, I think like that guy. All my friends, they're going to their kids' bar mitzvahs and simchas and Shabbat and family and everything. And I'm stuck in this prison because they wanted to get a Jew. I didn't do anything wrong. They just wanted to get somebody. Right? You follow? And it's not fair. And he realizes that, no, if I would have what they have, is like getting someone else's letter. That Bentley that this guy has, it wouldn't work for me. It doesn't do anything for me. What other people have doesn't do anything for me. I can't have what other people have. God gives it specifically just for you. That's it. What you have is for you, and that can only be good for you. Nothing else. Anything anyone else has will not help you. But that's not how people think. This woman's thinking, that baby should be mine. She's got my baby, right? That's jealousy. Now, the way jealousy really works is he doesn't want the letter that Rabashkin has. That's not what's really going on. What he wants is that Rabashkin should not have any mail. If Rabashkin didn't have any mail, he'd be fine.
But he'd only be fine because there wouldn't be a very strong message that nobody loves him and is sending him mail.
Yeah, that's right. That's true, right? That's exactly what jealousy is. That's why Cain kills Abel. Cain kills Abel because he's jealous. right? Because God loved him, right? Abel,
Right.
right? So if he kills him, what now God's gonna love? Right? Who's he gonna love now? Cain? Oh,
No.
no, right? He's not gonna have a soft spot in his heart for Cain because he killed Abel. So what is he doing? He's not doing anything. He doesn't want God's love. He could get God's love. He just doesn't want Abel to have it. That's what jealousy is. Shlomo Melech understood that. This woman doesn't want a baby. She just doesn't want her to have the baby. But she's not going to go kill a baby. That's like, I'm not an animal.
That's why he says, let's cut it. Oh, and then she cut. Oh, that makes sense now.
So there, Yosef, and you're saying there's the chachma that's going in with Yosef. It's not the same nuances, the same motivations going on. But don't think that what Yosef is doing is just spite, which I've heard people say. He's just getting back at his brother. That's not what's going on at all. Right? He's getting them to this spot, which is at the end of the parsha, where they have to come defend Benjamin. Right? The Talmud says that when they find the cup in Benjamin's sack, they say, Ganav ben Ganav. They believe he stole it.
Oh, because of Rachel stealing the idols of her father.
Right.
Oh.
Is that, how would anyone know that this is the thing that Benjamin would do? No, impossible. Therefore, he must have done it.
Except that supposedly, the ruler of Egypt had this special cup that could tell things about them that nobody else knew. So he could have known that and set them up.
Could have done what?
In other words, the ruler of Egypt could have known that Binyamin was the son of a Ganav and could have set them up.
Well, why would he do that?
Who knows? Jew haters all over the place.
What's that?
There are Jew haters all over the place.
No, I understand that. But why would he, then they know that he's into black magic, but why would he go out of his way of setting Benjamin up? Just kill him. What does he want from Benjamin?
Maybe he wants all of them to be slaves. Isn't that what they themselves think?
He doesn't want them to be slaves. He just wants Benjamin. Justice.
Oh, yeah, because he does say that, right? Yeah.
No, he is that they believe that Benjamin took it, even though they've got the money in their sacks.
That didn't bother them at all. Like, I would be very suspicious.
They should have been suspicious. They should have been suspicious, but they got used to it. You see, did Benjamin steal the cup?
No.
So when they confronted him, what did he say?
I didn't do
it. And how did he prove that he didn't do it?
Because they all had money back in their sacks.
So he said to them, listen, guys, you're right. I've got a cup in my sack, but you've got money in your sack. Explain that.
Right.
But what did they say?
They said, oh, he just returned it back to us like he did last time.
Well, they got two sets of money. The money the first time, and they got the money that they paid again this time. So they got two loads of money, two pockets of money.
Right.
Which neither time can they explain.
Oh, wait a minute. Yosef never said that he returned the money.
That's right.
So how did they explain it?
They didn't.
And this didn't cause some confusion at all?
No.
That's very strange.
So you see, what's Joseph trying to do?
I don't know, because none of this makes sense now to me. Not that I guess it didn't before either. If they all have their money back, wait, did Binyamin also have his money back in his sack?
It's interesting. It doesn't say. I assume he did.
Okay, so they all got their money back from the first time and the second time. And on top of that, he happens to have the cup. And nobody says this is strange.
No.
They go straight away to, oh, he must be the Ganav?
He must be the Ganav, right.
Why?
So you see, Joseph's trying to teach them a very important lesson, right? You see, I might speak Lashon Hara, right? You follow?
Yeah.
But you homeschool.
I don't get it. Are you telling me homeschooling is worse than Lashon Hara?
No, but if everybody you know speaks Lashon Hara, homeschool, that's the weird thing.
Oh, it's what you get used to, you're saying.
Yes, too. You see, right? We're all thieves. We're not thieves. We didn't steal the money, but how the money got there, I don't know. Why I speak Lashon Hara? I shouldn't speak Lashon Hara. I do. Please, don't drive me crazy. Why I speak Lashon Hara? I've heard all the faults, but you're not keeping Shabbos. Not you. Right? How can you not keep Shabbos? Oh my goodness. How can you not keep Shabbos? Are you crazy? David Melech said this. This is not my fault. Right? Rav Noach said it, right? But David and this is Rav Noach's fault. But David and Melech said, he said they accused me of committing adultery. The Talmud says it wasn't adultery, but nevertheless they accuse it. So he says adultery. Yesh lechem olam haba. You commit adultery, you still go to heaven. But someone who speaks Lashon Hara, en lecha olam haba. He doesn't go to olam haba.
Oh, because they're speaking Lashon Hara about him, that he committed adultery.
So how do they do it? It's Lashon Hara. It's not really Lashon Hara. It's like, okay, it is Lashon Hara. When in Aisha Torah early days, so Rav Noach used to tell the story. By the time I got there, it wasn't like this, but he would tell the story when they had Baal Tshuvas, like newly minted Baal Tshuvas. It was the early days of the Baal Tshuva world. And from people wouldn't have them for Shabbos. He had
right. God forbid.
Right, God forbid, they're going to come in with needles and they're going to be smoking stuff and they're going to be singing rock and roll music and
with nose earrings.
Earrings. This is before earrings. In those days, Ben didn't wear earrings. So from people wouldn't have them. It was the hardest time to get them to start having. So at Motzi Shabbos, he would call the hosts up and say, well, how'd it go? How'd it go? Right, you follow? And this was not an uncommon occurrence. He says that the boys were so nice. It was really very pleasant, right? He sat there and asking questions, and we're talking Torah and singing songs. They were the most respectful boys we've ever had for guests. Some of the most respectful boys we've had as guests. We said, were there any problems? No. Well, there was one problem. Says, what was that? Halfway through the meal, this boy, he says to me, I was giving a Devar Torah, and he says to me, isn't that Lashon Hara what you just said? Because the Baal Tshuva, he doesn't know that you're not supposed to say things like that. Like, you're not supposed to eat treif, you're not supposed to break Shabbos, you're supposed to say Lashon Hara. Like, it's all the same. If you saw him doing something, you go, isn't what you just did breaking Shabbos? No, you're allowed to do it because it's for the Shinoi, and it's this, and it's Shabbos, and it's a refrigerator. There's things that look like breaking Shabbos but aren't. Right, you follow? And Baal Tshuvas are used to asking these kind of questions. So he says, isn't that Lashon Hara you just said? The guy sits back, he's a little embarrassed. He says, yeah, you're right, it is. Isn't Lashon Hara worse than idol worship? He says, yes, it
like
is.
My kids.
Yes, it is.
Isn't this wrong? Isn't that wrong?
He says, do you worship idols? The guy got a real, shook him up. You follow? So you see, we get used to it. So Yosef wanted to teach him a lesson that you're accusing from Benjamin's point of view. From Benjamin's point of view, we all look guilty.
Mm-hmm.
I speak Lashon Hara and you homeschool. Right? You understand? Which one's worse? It depends who you're looking at. If I'm not saying homeschooling is bad. I'm just giving it. I'm sure we talked before about how some people look down on people look at homeschool. But if you spoke Lashon Hara, I wouldn't have a problem with you. Be homeschool, and you don't speak Lashon Hara. Well, now you're weird. There you go. Right? You understand? So Yosef was trying to get them to see they all look as bad as each other. If they could have done that, right? Then instead of defending Benjamin, they would have realized that someone was setting them up. Now, who could it possibly be? Who would know the Benjamin, the one thing that could set him up with is a cup. Right?
Well, first Hashem, and then it's Yosef.
It's Yosef. It must be Yosef, right? And so, which is coming to tell you a very important message. Our problems are our own doing.
Just out of curiosity, what would have happened if they realized that? If they said, you know what, Benjamin, you're right. We all have money. What is going on here?
Right. They would have realized that Joseph was.
And then what would have happened? They would have said, hey, are you Joseph?
Yeah, they would have come to realization that, yes, and God, why are you doing this to us? They would all realize that we're creating our own misery in Israel. You're creating your own misery. You're fighting with each other. What do you want to gain? You understand? It's your own misery is destroying each other. The Palestinians keep saying, when you fight against each other, it gives us strength. That's one of the messages that they said. The reason they attacked is they thought the country was falling apart. Just need a little push and they all go over. They were demonstrating in the streets. They thought it was all over. Said, hello. Right? Is anything you're fighting over worth October 7th? Get the message. I mean, this is a consistent message, right?
I want to really understand this. So if they had realized it was Yosef and they would have said to him, hey, are you Yosef? And he would have said yes. What would they have said after that?
Kumbaya. Let's have Shabbos. Let's have a l'chaim.
Really? They wouldn't have been like, what are you doing? And why didn't you tell us that you're like, I
would have realized that we're all in the same boat. We shouldn't judge each other. That's how they got in the mess in the first place, and judging Yosef.
Oh, so you're saying that they would have understood the lesson before they confronted him, and then the whole purpose of him planning this would have been completed. Like they would have gotten to complete, like they would have also asked him for forgiveness because they would have understood their errors.
Right, exactly.
Oh, and then there would be a complete forgiveness. Now I understand what you're saying. Okay, thank you.
But what he does get them to, which is an amazing thing, I want to tell you, I see this a lot. Being a grandparent teaches you a very interesting lesson in how silly people can be. Because when you join the grandfather club, you meet a lot of other grandparents who go crazy over their grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not the same with children, even though technically it is the same with children, but with grandchildren, it's a little different. In that really, you really didn't have an awful lot to do with these kids. You're 1 in 4 engagements, right? The old joke, my son-in-law, my daughter-in-law, was such a mistake. I don't understand how they raise such great children, right? Like, despite your son-in-law, your daughter-in-law, your grandchildren come out amazing. I just don't understand it. One of the miracles of nature, right? That's how people think, right? I don't think that way, but that's a typical thing. But the point is, it's like, people get such joy out of their grandchildren, right? Even though they have very little to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Their engagement in this child is very little. So it's telling you a very important thing, that it has nothing to do with what this child did. You look at this child in a way that gives you a lot of nachas, which means you can look at any child that way and get the same amount of nachas. It's not that the child did anything. It's not that there's anything special in this child. The only difference is you refuse to hold any resentments against this child, and other children you do. The world is filled with tremendous amount of joy. All you're going to do is look at the child in a certain way, and you'll get nachas from them, whether it's your grandchildren. There's a famous story where one of the great rabbis, he's walking along the street, and he sees an older lady like going crazy, running after a child. What is she going crazy about? Because it looks like the child's in the road, it's dangerous and everything. And he says to her, like that, calm down, lady. It's okay. It's not such a problem. He looks closer. He realizes it's his grandchild. And he goes crazy. You think it's your grandchild, then all of a sudden it's a joy. Right? You could just as easily think this child is your grandchild and be a joy.
Yeah, but in order for you to do that, you have to like feel that you yourself are a joy.
Well, that's true. That's true. But nevertheless, people can do it with their grandchildren. Which means you could really do it with anyone. You see, Joseph was trying to get the brothers to not look at Benjamin as their brother, but to look at him like the son of their father.
Mm.
When you look at someone differently, you relate to them differently. It's just how you think about them. So the end of the Parsha, Yehuda says to Yosef, how can I do this to my father? It's his child.
Mm-hmm.
That's when Yosef breaks. That's what he's trying to get them to that understanding. When we look at people, we look at Jews, they're all the children of Abraham. They're the mightiest children. We look at Jews that way, you think about them differently. You look at humanity that way. They're all the children of Noah. They're all Tselem Elokim.
Is this the reason why Yehuda and Binyamin were the only two tribes that were left in Israel before, like after the 10 tribes were lost?
I don't know if that's the reason. It's a very good question. I don't know if that's the reason why they survived.
Because now there's a connection with them because Yehuda's standing up for Binyamin and he's viewing him in a different way. So now he's saying, no, we're connected. We're one.
Right. Could be. Very good. Thanks, guys.
Can I share something very small and quick for
You can say slow long.
It's there's a concept called framing, and
yes, exactly.
And exactly. So when how you frame a situation, how you frame a person, will tend to be how you frame your thoughts, your attitude, your actions to that person. So this is just to continue with what the Rav was saying, but a very easy way to remember it, and even I'll give a good mashal of how to apply it. I recently had a conversation with somebody about this. Was imagine you're at work and you have a coworker who comes to you and says, "Listen, can I borrow that pen on your desk? I just need to use a pen. I only need it for 5 minutes." And you're sitting here thinking like, it's a company supplied pen. We have a ton of them. I have a cup full of them. I'm not going to miss that one pen. Go on, take the pen. No problem. So that's your answer. Just take it. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Let me get back to my work. And the guy walks away and he's just like, why did he even have to ask? You're thinking that to yourself. Then the guy comes back 4 minutes and 45 seconds later and says, "Listen, I know I said 5 minutes, but I'm going to need it a little longer. I just want to come back. Is it okay?" And then you're like, "Just take the pen. It's okay." Now you're getting a little frustrated about it. And you let him go, and he keeps using the pen. So there you go. You're thinking, "Oh, this guy, such a nudnik, such a nudnik." Now, let's change. Let's pause for a second and let's go back like this. Imagine that it's the first day that this guy comes to work with you, this coworker, and your boss comes and he says, "Hi, listen. This is Yossi here. He's joining the team, and I just want to tell you, Yossi is a tremendous tzaddik. I've known him from around the way. Tremendous tzaddik. Just know, great guy, great to work with. I really believe you're gonna enjoy it." Okay, well, now you have that little seed planted in your mind that Yossi's a tzaddik now, not a nudnik, a tzaddik. And so what happens? Same situation happens now. Now imagine Yossi comes to you and says, "Hey, can I take that pen? I need to borrow a pen for 5 minutes. And you say, of course. Thank you for asking. Such consideration. I know there's a cup full of them. I know there's a cup full of these pens, but thank you so much for asking. It just shows that, you considered me. And okay, now he takes a pen. He goes, hey, not a bad guy, not a bad guy. Comes back 4 minutes, 45 seconds later. Listen, I said 5 minutes, but I'm not going to quite be 5 minutes. You go, Yossi, it's not an issue. Wow, that's so kind of you to even you're such, makpid on the zmanim, and you're kol kavod. Yeah, no problem. Take the pen. You know what? Keep the pen. It's okay. I have plenty more. Don't worry. You're new here. Start your own collection. And then Yossi goes back to his issue like, wow, this guy really is a tzaddik. He stands by his word. He means what he means.
Right.
And suddenly you're not annoyed when you have the framing right in your mind.
That's
And
exactly the point. Right.
correct. And so to what the Rav was saying here, I figure that's a very interesting story because we all have related to people in our lives where maybe where they've come and asked us for that pen at a moment where it's just like, okay, take the pen. It's like don't make a thing out of it. But then when we're reviewing them in that proper light, we understand the genuine actions and thought behind the things behind the scenes here. We read between the lines to the depths of the person and viewing them in that proper light, that proper framework. So I'm just I'm not even adding anything. I'm just giving the mashal to help maybe us take that with us. It's a very important lesson, that framing properly.
Very good. Very good. That's exactly right. Very good. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Happy Hanukkah. See you next week.
Hanukkah. Thank you, Rabbi. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.
On the 8th day.
That's right. That's right. That's right.